Welcome back, everyone, to the Crosscourt show. Time for another episode, and delighted to bring onto this one Harvey Ravenscroft, co-founder and head of pickleball and performance at Courtside Pickleball. Harvey, it's great to have you on. I've been wanting to get you on for a little while, and it's great to finally get this sorted. So, first of all, how's things?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, thank you for that intro. That made me sound very, very official. It's great to be on, and it's really good to come and get on something that's about all racket sports and really showcase how the racket sports can work together, because that's a little bit of a situation at the moment. Not all the racket sports are maybe working as well as they could do together. So it's definitely good to have this space to chat about how they can all work together and create a space for people to compete in sport. Things are going well here. We've been open a few months now, coming up to 3 months tomorrow, actually. We've been open, so it's sort of flown by. But yeah, it's good. Busy at the moment. Courts are full as we speak, so it's great news.
That's good. Yeah, and it's good because, I mean, I obviously know a bit about you, but for listeners, you've obviously come originally from tennis, as far as I'm aware. So talk a bit about, well, first, can I just get you to intro Courtside Pickleball, because I think that is the main reason and the main topic we'll discuss today. So if I just get you to introduce that and what you're doing there and what it is, first of all, and then I'll just get you after that to talk a bit about your entry into pickleball and a bit about your background. But yeah, first of all, go with Courtside.
Yeah, of course. So Courtside Pickleball, we're based in Stourbridge in the UK, so near Birmingham, pretty much slap bang in the middle of the UK. And we're an 8-court purpose-built pickleball club in the UK. So we're fully submerged in pickleball. We've got 8 acrylic courts that are cushioned, built for pickleball. For all the pickleball players listen to this, there's no badminton lines. There's no dodgy nets. There's no short run-offs at the back of the court. We've done this purely to make pickleball have a proper space in the Midlands, which it didn't have. So it's really, really good to do that.
Amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've been a few times now, and it's up there with the best. You know, people have called it the best, and it's certainly up there for me as well. It is state of the art, and you're not going to be disappointed. Awesome. So we'll get more into maybe the journey that you've been on in creating it from scratch with your other co-founders. But what's your personal journey into pickleball? You were a tennis player when you were younger, and what's your journey into pickleball been like?
Yeah, it's so I did quite a bit of tennis when I was younger. I was competing the normal sort of county level competing, nothing major at all. And then I went into coaching when I was 16, started doing coaching around Worcestershire and the West Midlands, went off to university in Worcester, did some more tennis coaching alongside that. And I actually came across padel first. Padel was the first one I did. So came across padel, played padel for a couple of years. I've done a bit of padel coaching as well. And then all of a sudden I got a message from Josh. Josh is our founder, and he gave us a message, and he said, I'm interested in setting up a centre for pickleball and possibly even padel. So do you want to meet for some breakfast? So I said, yeah, of course, meet for some breakfast. And he just talked me through pickleball a little bit, and I hadn't seen much of it. To be honest, I thought it was a sport for old grannies, and he won't mind me saying that. That's what I thought when he said. I thought, this is a sport in America for old grannies. And he was like, well, come down in Redditch to the Abbey Stadium and come down and have a go and see if you think it's for old grannies. So I turned up and I got I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but I got my ass whooped. You can leave that out if you like. By a bunch of 80-year-olds. And I realised this is not for grannies and we need to let more people know about this. So, yeah, that was a really sort of interesting awakening into pickleball for me.
That's good. In fact, it's similar to, I mean, I know Lloyd, I haven't had Lloyd on the podcast yet from the pickleball store, but his is the same thing. He went to America and first played it and got absolutely whipped by some of the older generation. So I think it's quite a common entrance into the sport. But that's really cool. All right, so we've got that initial sort of interest in pickleball there, and then talk about that next step from that meeting and that breakfast with Josh. What was then the next steps? You were obviously keen to get going, and you've obviously since built it. But what were some of the early stages of going from nothing to then actually putting some actions in place?
Yeah, it was really interesting actually. So we had a meeting, and originally we were looking for pickleball and paddle. So we were it was myself, Josh, Josh's dad, Boone, and Ben as well. And Ben was my friend from school. So myself and Josh knew each other from tennis. And then I brought Ben along to the meeting. And we sort of all hashed it out a little bit, had a little bit of a look at what we think we could be doing, where we should look for, how big do we want the site, all of those little bits at the start that you sort of go and look for before you start looking at properties. And we just went, right, we need this indoor because the weather around here is not great. So we need this indoor, we need a space without any wind, without any rain, that we can really go at this. So we've started looking at some properties around the West Midlands, sort of around, we're from Redditch, a town just south of Birmingham. So around that sort of area. And we were sort of doing this for, it's been about 12 months. We're looking for properties. You know, you go to some, you view them, you think they're really good, and then they have some problems with them, and then you move on to the next. And some properties you don't take more than half an hour at, and some you could be at for hours and hours, weeks upon weeks before you realise it's not the right one for you. And we eventually came across this property in Stourbridge that was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Great location, great sort of size. Price wasn't massively extortionate either. All of this sort of suited really well. Great links to the motorways, not too far from an airport. But it was too low for padel. So we just thought to ourselves, let's just focus on the pickleball. Padel's going up everywhere. And pickleball's got this edge to it where it's just that little bit more inclusive. And for us as well, that little bit more exciting. And it had that little bit of an edge to it. So we decided to just go straight away with the pickle. And I think the longest amount of time we spent at one site throughout a day, I think we were probably there for about 16 hours one day at this site, just making sure that we really liked it before we actually went ahead with it. So we've spent a lot of time in this building. I'm here right now. I'm in one of the office spaces now. And it's quite interesting to see how it's transformed from an old steel warehouse into 8 amazing courts.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And was there any places that you went to and you initially had thought, actually, you know, this could be the one, and then it didn't, like you obviously said, that the one was too low? Were there any other factors where you initially thought this was the one, and then it didn't end up being?
Yeah, I think it was weird because Josh has a background in property, just to set the scene a little bit, and myself and Ben, we don't. So, and he told us, you know, as you go into a space, you'll sort of get a feel for it, and you'll recognise whether you want to be here or not. And I was like, that's a load of rubbish. And then, what do you know? He was right with a lot of things, as he is a lot of the time. So we came into this building, and I was just like, I like the feel for this one. And that hadn't really happened anywhere else. I think one of the things that we'd spotted in other venues was that often the space was quite vast and wide, and it had lots and lots of space for courts. But the issues that we had was we couldn't quite picture ourselves being able to set up the way we wanted in the space. So we're not just 8 courts. We have a cafe, we've got a conference room, a couple of offices, a mezzanine, a little studio. And we really wanted that kind of stuff in there. And in a lot of the other spaces, we couldn't sort of find that. And I think one of the things that we had to look out for that we really were struggling with on other sites was making sure that once we did all of our surveys and all of our building surveys, that everything was tip-top and up to shape, because that can definitely come back to bite you in a few years. So that was a big thing for us, making sure that the building was in really, really good condition. And that is what turned us away from a couple of other sites where things like the roof might have been an issue in 5 or so years. We didn't take a chance.
Okay, interesting. And my last question on this initial setup was, what do you think is important, you know, if you were to do it all over again, or if you're happy with, and I'm sure you are, your setup as a team, but what makes a good team in setting up a pickleball centre? Obviously, you've had one person who's knowledgeable in the property area. You've obviously got the racket sports background. Is there an ideal combination, do you think, for if other people are thinking about it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So the 4 of us that were the most involved from the beginning, you've got Boone and Josh, who had a property background, and that's really helpful when you're coming to look at things like leases and building regulations. And Josh spent so much time; he poured his absolute heart into this, and that look, forever thankful for that. We all are. Like, he poured so much time and and stuff into this business, and that's been really the main key to our success. Ben and myself are a little bit different, so we're the same age. Well, I'm 22, Ben's 21, and while we were building this, he was in an apprenticeship and still is at BT, and I was at university in Worcester. I was still completing my undergrad. So whilst we had a little bit less time, we brought a little bit of a fresh taste to the business as well, some new ideas. And Ben's very, very good operationally, so that's really helpful to have somebody like that, so organised and so good operationally. To have Josh there, who was really leading the charge, pouring his heart into it. And I could sort of speak from a racket sports background with my background in tennis and padel, and I was also doing an undergrad in sports business management at the time. So I could put a lot of those theories to the test, really. So I think having a background of somebody that's very, very driven and very, very good operationally, somebody who's got a little bit of experience in the industry, and then somebody who's really, really good with the property side of it and is just such a visionary is a really, really good combination. And it doesn't mean that we didn't have help along the way. Oh my gosh, Alex, we've had so much help along the way, and we still do now. So many people have just volunteered their time to come and just help us. And that, I think that really speaks to the pickleball community as a whole, that these people were just coming to help us with little bits and pieces, with decorating, with building little bits and pieces along the way, helping us go into view sites, and just lending their knowledge and their time is really a key. And I think the key is that we can't do it on our own. Nobody can. So although us three have been in it together, it's been a real team effort from all of the team here. And I think that's really the key, having a good team around you. And I think any one of us would say the same thing, which is really good.
Awesome. And going into your role there now, I guess it's changed a little bit. Now you're up and running, and you got going in January, I think, or February time. So being head of pickleball and performance, what does that entail, and what are the sort of day-to-day things you're doing in running this centre in your role specifically? Yeah,
that's a great question. We it really changes each day, and it changed a lot since when we opened in January to where we are now. And we're a very new business, and we're a small business, and we're like to constantly refining our roles. And so for me today, the head of pickleball element really refers to all of our coaching sessions, all of our social sessions, all of our tournaments. So I run that program. So I spend a lot of time on court. That's where I've just come from, and I'll be going back to it after we've recorded as well. I spend quite a bit of time on court. Then the performance side of it really relates to how the business is doing from a financial point of view, in relation to the courts area. So obviously, I mentioned we have other bits of space, like the cafe and our third spaces. Luckily, we've got some experts in that know a lot more about that than I do. And I really try and look after the court side of things, to try and make sure that we've got enough people playing on the courts, make sure that we've got enough money coming in from the courts, that we're filling sessions, that kind of thing is really what I do. But to be honest, on a day-to-day, I do everything from a little bit of court cleaning. I could be serving coffees from behind the cafe. I could be attempting to make people food. I can't always say I'm the best at that bit, so that responsibility often gets taken off me. We could be in meetings about the state of the business and how we're getting on, little bits and pieces like that. Really, it could be anything at all. Chatting to different partners that we have. Like I mentioned Lloyd earlier from the pickleball store. So we've been working quite closely with Lloyd from the pickleball store, which has been absolutely amazing. He's great. We've got a few other partnerships that we're going to be announcing super soon, actually, which is really, really good. So yeah, a real mix.
That's awesome. And talk about some of the events that you put on and that you host at the centre, because I mean, I know personally I've been at a recent one, which was a junior performance camp with some of the best kids in the country coming together. You were a part of the coaching setup for that with Sam Basford, Jack Edwards and Josh Roberts. So that was pretty an amazing thing. It's sort of like the first time that's ever happened, I think, in this country, bringing all those great group of kids together. How important is that, do you think, more generally in the growth of pickleball in this country? It was pretty cool, and you could really see the potential in these kids. But yeah, how important is it, do you think? Yeah,
I mean, that one just really hits the nail on the head. So I don't know if you know, but the last time it was recorded, the average age of pickleball in the UK was 57 years old. And that's really great to get that older generation involved. But the sport will not be sustainable if we don't have juniors in. And the junior performance is a real big part of that. And to be a part of hosting that first ever junior camp was actually really, really amazing. And to work with such a young group of coaches as well. I believe Sam's 26, but he looks a bit younger than that. But to have a team of coaches all under 30 and then working with yourself as well is really, really nice and refreshing. And I think good for the kids to see as well, that it's not just a bunch of OAPs sat behind the paddles and like telling them what to do and shouting at them, that we could really be pretty hands-on because we all play as well. And yeah, it was really, really good. And some of those kids were super, super good. And it was really good to see their growth, not just in their pickleball, but also in their mindset. And Sam did a great bit of mindset work with them on the Wednesday morning. And I think it's really good to see that improvement. And for me, that's part of why I'm doing this. My overall goal, we've got a few pinpoint goals in the business, and one of them is to reduce the average age of pickleball in the UK, and that's kind of my remit. So it's been super good to do that. And one I'd like to actually have a little bit of a chat about is our adaptive pickleball event that we ran last month. That one was absolutely incredible. So we reached out to some wheelchair users, some of which had played wheelchair pickleball before, some haven't. So for those that aren't familiar, wheelchair pickleball is slightly different. You're allowed 2 bounces, and there's some slightly different rules around where the wheels of the chair can be. So the front 2 wheels can actually enter the kitchen when volleying, and the same entering the baseline when serving. And that event was really cool. So we actually ran the first ever UK hybrid event. So we had teams of 4, 2 non-standing athletes and 2 standing athletes in one team. So we would mix the pairings up. So I even got to get on court with one of the wheelchair players and play a little bit doubles as well, which was really, really good. So to host that event and to see so many people coming together, and it really showcases how inclusive pickleball is, and to have Courtside as the home of that event is just super, super good. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think we're actually looking to do another one soon. Once I have the date, we'll definitely be posting that one out, and we'll be doing it again soon.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I work a bit in the disability tennis space for an organisation called Parastanding Tennis, and it feels wheelchair tennis is obviously very well known, and it's done amazingly well in the last few years. It's actually 50 years of wheelchair tennis this year, and it's an amazing Paralympic sport. But with parastanding tennis, it's almost catching up. So I feel if we can in pickleball, get onto it early, so it doesn't feel like we're catching up in a few years' time, and we really feel like there's a level playing field. I think that's spot on. So to have you guys hosting that sort of event, within the first 2 months of opening, I think is pretty amazing. So good job to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, 100%. We the great thing about pickleball is that we are a new sport. It means that we can sort of rewrite the rules however we sort of see fit. As a sport, it's a little bit, there's not as much legislation as there is in tennis, and not as many traditions, which is often negative and positive, but it does mean that we can have a little bit more freedom in the events that we do and the way that we shape the sport, which is really crucial. I think that there's a lot of responsibility for all of us working in the space to make sure that we're growing the sport sustainably. I think that's going to be a big thing in the UK, sustainable growth in all of these new racket sports, not just pickleball, but padel as well, to make sure that it doesn't die out.
And then, so sort of moving, latching onto that, what are your goals at Courtside? I know you said you had a few pinpoint goals for the next, I guess, few years or even further on. What are those specifics, and what are you looking to try and do at the centre and in opening up the sport? Yeah,
so I think the first one that I've briefly mentioned is reducing the average age of pickleball in the UK. So that's not just getting kids involved, but it's getting people around our age actually to get involved in between 20 and 30. And we found we are doing that at the moment. We actually had some numbers in earlier on today, actually, that we've about 25% of our users are between 20 and 30. So that's really, really good news. So that's one of them. The other one is that we're trying to create a real community at Courtside of people that can come and play, but not just go and play and leave. They play, they're going to stay, have a chat together, talk about life as much as they want to, and really have a space where they can just make some good friends, and really have that space to open up and connect with one another. We don't think pickleball is just a sport where you turn up, hit a few balls around, win or lose, then just go home straight away. We like the idea that it becomes a little bit of a community, and we're constantly doing social sessions and little bits and pieces so that people can try and get together and meet new people, which we think is really, really important for us. So that's one of them. I think on top of that, really trying to grow ourselves as well. We want to be not just known in the Midlands, but we really want to get ourselves around the country as well. So that would be a goal in coming years.
And I guess that's a matter of doing things like the junior camps, and I think a few people came from abroad for that, and even there was interest. I know Sam just posted a reel earlier on and about the camp, and there was a comment from someone saying, "Oh, do you accept people coming from abroad?" And he was like, "Yes." So that sort of thing I imagine is great, and events and hosting events I imagine is a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean 100%. And we've also got the UK Youth Championships here. So we've got the UK Youth National Championships here in June as well. So that's another way that we're trying to get kids involved by hosting events like that. So that is 100% a massive part. Yeah, it's really good that we've had some interest from kids from abroad as well. That's really good news. It's probably because the reel was so well made. I wonder who made that reel.
Come on, here we go. It sponsors this podcast, I think, Alico Sports. I think
Alico
it's...
Sports. I can give it a massive shout out. Alico Sports is very, very highly recommended by me and Courtside.
That's awesome. And I guess I think as well, one of the things I'm trying to do with this podcast, I think would be cool is, we actually come from a similar background of playing tennis competitive as a junior, and I feel very strongly about the lessons I learnt through playing competitive tennis to a decent standard when I was younger, and what that's given me at this moment of my life, where whether that's building relationships in like business or working hard and sort of going at it in my own way as opposed to like being employed, I guess. And I think that's interesting with you because you've had that similar background of playing tennis, and you were doing your university degree. I'm not even sure if you're still doing it or not. Are you still? I graduated in September. So whilst we were building this, I graduated. Okay, so and that's the sort of thing, you're doing all of this around finishing up your degree, and I think it's a really interesting path that you've taken to now doing this. So I guess two questions. What do you personally want to get out of this part of your life where you're building up a pickleball centre? I know you've got aspirations to start playing a bit more pickleball competitively, and if people are listening, go and follow your Instagram page, because I know you're going to be pumping out the content on that side of things.
Oh, thanks for the plug.
But yeah, so my first question is, what are you hoping to get out of this period of your life? What is the plan? And two, following from that, what advice would you give to those people and those younger athletes, be that tennis players, paddle players, pickleball players, that will want to continue playing the sport but also want to try and develop a career in the sport? Because I think that's so valuable, and I would recommend everyone to do it too.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I want to sort of try and explore three kind of different routes of racket sports and pickleball specifically. I want to explore the business side of it and how somebody can earn a living from being in the business side of racket sports, because it's not often talked about. You often hear about the other two routes, and obviously we're both trying to make a living off this, and then also trying to improve myself as a coach, which is the second route. And I'm trying to do as much coaching as I can, working with a massive range of players. I mean, the youngest age I've worked with in pickleball is 4, and the oldest is 89, I believe. So that's a massive, massive range, which is really good. And then on the playing side, I do want to be playing more and more, and I'm not entirely sure where that will lead me, but I'm certainly keen on playing some more competitive events and trying to give it a real go. I'm going to be playing, obviously, the English Open and the English Nationals this year, and then I'm going to look to playing some higher level events after September. But yeah, in terms of advice for younger players, whether they're in tennis or any other racket sport, I highly encourage them to stick at the solo sport. I really, really think it's beneficial. It's taught me, like you say, so many lessons, and tennis, pickleball, padel, squash, racquetball, all of them, they all teach you so many lessons about life, and it actually mirrors life quite well. Even the scoring system, the way you can win a few points at the right time in tennis, but actually have won less points than your opponent and still win the match. And similar in pickleball, the fact that you can actually win a point but not gain a point, actually, I think mirrors life quite well. I think we often get the comparison between pickleball and chess. You talk about pickleball being a chess match with the dinking. I actually kind of disagree with that, with a bit of a hot take. I think pickleball's more like poker rather than chess. And I think there's quite a big element of it in pickleball and tennis. I think stick at it. There's always a route through into a career in sport. Even if it doesn't look like it, you can go down the journalism, the media route like you have. You can go down the coaching route like I've done a little bit of as well. You can try and go down the playing route. You can go off to college in the States and try and give that a go and make some great connections out there. You can definitely try the business side of it as well, whether that be events, whether that be an actual site, whether that be going into schools and making pickleball super accessible and racket sport super accessible. There's always a way in. And I just recommend you stick with it no matter what situation you're in. And, there has been times of when we've been setting this up where you do think, oh my gosh, is this idea, this crazy idea that we had over breakfast, has it got the right legs? Are we doing the right stuff? Because you don't know at the start. So just to really trust in what you're doing and trust in that process. And I think actually to go back to one of your earlier questions of, is there anything you wish you did differently? For me personally, I wish I trusted it a little bit more in times and just really just stuck at it even more than we did. And yeah, 100%. But yeah, keep at it, whatever you're doing out there. Keep giving it a go. There's always something.
And finally, to finish off, what do you think, I always, in the stuff that I do, when you're sort of on your own a little bit with the business side, I feel like there's always so much to do. There's always so many things you could be doing, but ultimately it comes down to what you actually do and what's going to have the biggest effect. That's the thing that you want to try and do first. So if there's one thing that you think is the most important thing for the growth of Courtside, what is that thing? And for example, if you only had 2 hours a week to do that thing, what would it be? Getting
new young people into pickleball would be the number one thing. Breaking down those stigmas that pickleball's for old people. If I had 2 hours a week, I'd spend every second of that trying to get young people involved in pickleball.
And the process of doing that, how are you going to get those kids in through the doors?
Great question, because we're trying to do it even more, and we're trying to answer those questions ourselves. I think going into schools is one way, which can prove tricky at times because I know schools have low budgets and sometimes don't want to hear about it. But going into schools, offering your services for free at times, if it's for a good cause, looking at homeschool groups, looking at community groups that offer stuff for kids, running holiday camps, running even just parent and child stuff where the kids can come and do something with their mom and dad. That's what I would do. I would run sessions that are more accessible financially for parents and kids, because I know at the moment times are tough for people, and often people haven't got the disposable income to be spending loads and loads of money each week on pickleball coaching alongside their other sports. And we're a new sport. We have got to remember that. So we need to find ways in that are a little bit more creative.
Nice. Good stuff. Well, I'm sure you'll be successful in it. So, mate, thanks so much for that. That was a good half an hour of getting into the runnings of Courtside and what you're planning personally with everything pickleball related. So thanks so much for coming on. And, I'm sure we can have another one soon.
Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.